When I just registered myself to an ombre brow class, I was really looking for different videos to see what I could expect. I remember I wanted to try out the machine already to see how it feels and what it really does. But obviously this wasn't possible since you don't have your machine yet and your pigments or any latex. In my trainings, I really want people to have a possibility to start training before they even follow a full training of mine. We will send a package to your home with only the equipment that you need to practice on latex. This will be some weeks before the actual class. In different videos, you will receive a step-by-step guide and only the information that you need to practice with your machine and your pigments. Of course, in the actual class, you will receive all theory and everything that's included in my classes, of course. Want to show you how to do a perfect ombre brow on latex. On latex, you need to know that it's very different from actual skin. So on latex, it will show you a lot more obvious than when you're pigmenting in real skin. So we'll go ahead and start with all the products that you need. First of all, you need your machine and your sleeves. For that, you also need your self-adhesive tape. Then you need your pigments, your pigment cup holder, and some cups for putting the pigment in. You need needles, wipes, and gloves. And last but not least, you need latex. So we start with preparing our machine. So we have some sleeves over here. They usually come in a package like this, so it's a lot. So we'll take one out of there. That's one. And we'll wrap this up again. Okay. Then what you'll need to do, because the sleeve is quite long, really long, you can either use it completely, or what I usually do is fold it in half and then cut it right here. And then you got two sleeves, because it doesn't have to cover the full wire of the machine, just a part of it. Okay, so we'll put that one away. And then we're gonna put our machine into the sleeve. The machine I'm using today is the Quadron machine. It's the Proton MX, and I find it a very suitable and nice machine for my hand movement. And it's not that heavy and it works really nice. The greatest thing about the machine is that all types of needle fit in, so you don't have to buy from a particular brand to fit in needles in here. So we're gonna put the machine into the sleeve like this, and then all the way down until the very front of the machine. So it doesn't have to be all the way up here, but a little bit underneath, and this you just fold downwards. So before we put our self-adhesive tape around it, we need to put in the needle first, because we need to decide what the needle length will be. So the needle I'm working with today is from Quadron as well. And it's a one liner, and it's a 0.30. So unravel this, and then we're gonna put the needle into the machine. So just push it downwards and then turn it once. So you feel that it's really stuck, you can't get it out anymore. So again, you push it in, you hear a click, and then you turn it around. So it's quite stuck in here. And just test it by pulling it out a little bit. If it's not, then it's good. So then we need our self-adhesive tape. So for example, this is one of the self-adhesive tapes that I've got. You got them in all kinds of colors. I usually like to work with black since, yeah, it's gonna be messy sometimes, and it always looks clean and neat. Just show you this way. So what you need is a piece like this, for example. So it's like a small one hand, and then we're gonna just shred it. Okay, then you got your piece, and you need to put that around your machine. So as we said, the sleeve needs to be a little bit down the machine, so not all the way up, so that it's not covering the needle or too close by the needle. So just a little bit. I usually fold this double because the sleeve is obviously bigger. So fold it double, and then I put the tape around it. So you place it on one part, and then you turn it around your machine, going downwards. So I'm gonna show you one more time. You get your machine, you have your machine over here, and you have your sleeve like 2 centimeters or 1 centimeter below. Wherever you're gonna fold your sleeve double, so right here, this is the point where you're gonna put your self-adhesive tape on first, because it makes it easier for you to wrap it around. So hold it like this, put it on, and then pull your self-adhesive tape, hold your self-adhesive tape on the other side, and just roll it around it, and it sticks to itself all the way down, and over here it's stuck to itself. You feel that you have more grip because of the self-adhesive tape as well. So this is the way to do it. We're gonna put our machine ready. To check the right needle length, you need to put on your machine. This would be a good size of the needle, but you can also make it a little bit smaller if the person who you're gonna treat is a little bit older, for example, because the skin is more fragile and it will take the pigment better than usual younger customers, for example. So then we've got our pigment cup holder. We need to wrap this with foil so that the bacteria won't go inside, and you can use and grab your pigment cup holder, for example, if you want during the treatment as well. So we've got 2 types of foil. This is just a tiny type of foil, and it's really, really thin. You can just easily wrap this around your cup holder. This one is so thin, like not wide, I mean. It usually is stronger when you've wrapped it all around it than when you've wrapped it once, so with a bigger foil. So we're just gonna go ahead and grab a bigger foil. It's just a roll like this one, and you can purchase this anywhere easily. So with this one, it's obviously too big again, but that's okay because I have a tip for that. So I just grab it out, and you need a piece like this. So again, a little over a hand, just like with the sleeve. Take that off, and then we're gonna put it around our cup holder. So we'll lay it on top of it. It needs to be nice and tight because you're gonna need to poke a hole in it for the actual cup. When you hold it, it's nice and tight, as you can see, and then you fold it because it sticks to itself all the way around it underneath. So you see the residue of my foil is all over here, and this is nice and tight and strong. And then we have our little pigment cups, which are these ones. You can buy them in any type of shape and size as well. I think I had the bigger ones because I like working with those. because usually I just grab a lot of pigment and I grab a lot of numbing cream. So that's why I usually take 2. For now, I'll just take 2 because then I can show you 2 types of colors of pigment that we're going to use. So what you need to do with your cup holder is poke a hole. And then you have a hole and you put your pigment cup right in there. It's nicely stuck in here as well. And then what I usually do is take all the way the other side. So over here, this little hole, to put my numbing cream in so that it's not too close to the pigment. But for now, I just want to show you the other type of pigment with practicing on the latex. So I'll just put it over here anyways. Put that one in, and then this one is good to go. Then obviously you need latex as well and pigments. So what I have over here is some examples that I've already made. I'm just going to show you. If you work with a eyeliner black, you're going to have an example like this over here. And if you work with a dark brown, you're going to have an example like this over here. So it doesn't really matter which type of pigment you would choose to work with because it's practicing only. And you can see visible pixels with both of the examples. So it's up to you what you want to work with. So what I have is a eyeliner black, which is this one. So it's completely pure black. Then I've got darkest brown, which I like a lot. And I have blackish brown, which usually you would only use 1 or 2 drops to one other pigment to make it a little bit darker. But for practicing, you can use the pure color. So today we're going to go ahead and take the darkest brown and the blackish brown. So they're both brown. I'm not using the black for this one. Practice, but as I said, you can take any type of pigment that you would prefer, and that's also including black, as long as it's not too shallow and not too light, because then you won't see what you're really doing during practice. So we're gonna put our pigments in. So what you need to do is shake them very, very well. They have a little metal bowl in it, that's why you hear the clicking sound, to really shake the pigment throughout. So this is the blackish brown, first of all. Gonna put that in here. And you just need like half of the cup. It really depends on how much you're gonna practice. And then we have our darkest brown. And we'll put this right into this cup. Okay. And then we're good to go. Okay, so over here I got some really white-ish latex compared to the usual latex that I have. Let me check. Where is it? Oh, it's right over here. This is the usual latex that I work with, but now I got these ones new because with a white surface, I think you can see my hand movement and everything that I pixel in here better than when I do it on a natural skin tone. Okay, so what we need for the latex is some wipes. So I've got them over here. And we need cotton pads, a mix of water with green soap. So we'll put these on the pads just to make sure, and we'll lay them over here. Lay them over here. You need this type of amount on your pad. And again, I'll show you. This is enough. And just let them sit there. And then you have 2 dry ones for if it gets too wet. First, we'll start with what kind of movement you need for doing ombre brows. You clearly don't want any visible lines when coloring your brow in. You only need visible lines when you're doing an outline, for example, and it's up to you if you want to do an outline or not. So I've got two different examples that I've made, one with an outline and one without an outline. I would really recommend to practice both. This way you can see and choose which you like most. Most artists have a unique brow, so this means some famous artists color the brow in completely with an outline as well. Some of them make a unique shading, some do half on half. It just depends whatever you like or what your customer wants in the end. So the movement is the first thing that we'll practice together. Ombre brows are really known because of their pixels you leave into the skin, and this is really what pixels should look like. Put your machine on and we're gonna go into the blackish brown. Just put only your needle inside. Nice and slow. So that's all you need to begin with, because with this amount you can already do a lot. So here are the two pixels that I've made. This is one, and there are some rows on top of each other, I think like 1 or 2. So I went from one side to the other, back to one side, and one more time to the other one. Over here, I just made pixels in one type of line. So here you see the pixels very well, and that's what ombre brows are really known for. And this is actually what makes them really natural in the end as well. So what I did, I used the pendulum movement, which is going and putting your pixels in like this towards you. So from one side to the other. So I'm just gonna show you first with a pencil because that's easiest. So what your machine does when you hold it, it goes like this. So it touches the surface one time for maybe 1 or 2 seconds and go back and go forward, go back, go forward, go back. So you never make one straight line. So you're not pixeling like this, but you pull it towards you and away from you, towards you and away from you. And keep doing that the whole time. The thing what you really have to practice is your type of hand movement and pressure, because doing this is already different and harder. And that's the first thing what you need to learn, because pressure comes right afterwards. So that's why you need to work and practice on latex all the time. So I'm first going to show you what the needle actually would do. So we're doing the pendulum movement. So away from you, that's where you don't touch the skin, because we don't work two-sided. You only work one-sided. That's the first thing you're going to learn, work one-sided. So only either towards you or away from you. So I'm going to show you again. I work usually towards me. So this is the way. Then I go like this again, away from you, towards me, away from me, towards me. Practice first towards you. So away from you, towards you, away from you. You don't hit it. Away from you, towards you, away from you, towards you, away from you, towards you. That's what you do with the machine the whole time when pixeling. So again, away from you, hit it, towards you, away from you, hit it, towards you, away from you. I'll show you again closer, like this. There's a hair on my thing. Like this. And keep your hand position nice and smooth. So don't press hard. Okay, so we're gonna practice again. Your machine is on. Put your machine into the pigment. So we're gonna go away from us, towards us, away from us, towards us, away from us, towards us. So this is what you do the whole time. And stay in one little section. But of course you have to practice that. And this is what you'll get. So again, this is what it looks like right now. So then we're going to go ahead and go to the first part, which is outlines. Outlines are not made with pixels, or they are made with pixels, but then on a really tight basis. So for example, if you're making an outline, you can make it with pixels, but it's not the same as when you make a full outline. So if you make one line, I got them over here. It's not the same as a straight line. So you want to make clean and straight lines, but how can you practice them on latex? Because I can understand that when you're just beginning, for example, it's hard to make a straight line all of a sudden without any guidance. So what I would recommend is just you draw a line, a straight line, with a pencil and a ruler, for example, and then we're gonna practice the outline. So I can't find my ruler, but that's no bad thing because you can find any straight object. So I got my needle box from Quadron, another type of needle that I'm using right now. So not this one, not the same. So we're gonna go and make some straight lines. The thing is, with you practicing straight lines, you can just practice them towards you or away from you. I'll get to that part later. But with an actual brow, you're actually making a V shape because that's the tail of the brow. So you'll have to practice that hand movement as well by making a V shape. So just make different types of lines and then we're gonna practice them together. What I'll just do is make short lines because that's what we really want to practice on. And also long lines because brows on the upper side of the brow, it has a longer part than on the tail side of the brow. And then we're gonna go ahead and make some V shapes as well. And then in the V, you can even make it harder for yourself, but that's only worth practicing because you'll get better and better. And that is really to make inside of the V some other points with straight lines. So it sounds a bit silly, but this will help you with any type of position or body position and hand movement to really practice all type of sides, because you're sitting right here on the side of your customer and you just want to be able to go like this with your machine and your hand position, and this way is already different, and all the way on the outside. So just to practice, so you don't actually make a shape like this onto your customer's brow, but this is just to practice. But the thing is, with outlining, you always have to make small sections. You can't do anything like going like this all the way in one time, just dragging it towards you, because it's never going to be straight. So you need to practice on small sections. And what you'll do, I'll show you with the pencil again, is you go, for instance, for a small section like this, and then on that same section, you'll go back for half of the section and then go again out of that section. Go back half of that section, go forward on the full section, and then half of it. And you keep doing that until there is a nice straight line. So that's what we're gonna do with the machine as well. Some of you guys have learned that you are making a straight line in one time. So it is possible, but that's really not what I would teach you to do, especially when you're a beginner, because I mean, I feel like it's up to you, whatever works best for you, obviously, but you could rather just practice in sections first, go back and then section towards you, like all the time, because it makes the line so much more straight than when you do it once. Okay, so it's up to you. I'm going to show you once what I did with the line. So this is my pencil, obviously. You're going to make a straight line. You're going to do, for instance, 50% of the line. And then so towards you. Then you go back the 25, so half of that line. And then from the 25, you go further 50%, and then you go back 25%, and then you go forward 50%, back 25%. So that's usually what you do. So over here on these sections, you go back and go forward, go back, go forward, go back, go forward. So that's what we're gonna do and learn with our machine as well. Okay, so what I do for my machine to really have a great position is to put my little pinky on top and pressure it down on the latex. So this way I have the best grip on my machine and I can make the best lines there are. So hold your machine like this. You have your thumb and your index finger on top of your machine, and this one, your middle finger, is resting the machine on. So see how I'm holding my machine, and then your pinky to really make pressure on. You want to hold your machine in a 90-degree way all the time. It's really forbidden to hold it like this or hold it like this or whatever, hold it from the side, because then you just don't get that same amount of pixels into the skin, and it can really harm the skin because you go too deep. And with this way, 90-degree, you can always check how deep you're going with your needle. So you put your pinky up there, and we're gonna make a line first. And again, we'll pull a little bit towards us. The thing is also, I make a very, very thin line right here. I'm going to give you a better close-up. So right here you see the line where I've made it with a pencil as well. So this first part, and then I made the outline myself. It looks a bit strange, but that's because the difference of pressure is in there. So on this little point, you can really see that the pressure was a lot more on this little side than over here. It's less pressure over here, and the line is thinner as well. Obviously, the less pressure you have with your machine, the thinner and nicer the line is gonna get. So don't press too deep with your machine. What I'm gonna do, because this pencil is not too nice, I'm just gonna go and make a line straight next to it. Okay, and then I need to switch and move my hand. Okay, and then we got a nice line. This is really what the line looks like. So you see that the pigment is not pigmented evenly on the latex, so that's what you'll get with real skin as well. So the depth of your needle inside of the skin needs to be the same all the time. This was the first line that we made, and now we're gonna go ahead and do the opposite line. Leave your latex as it is. You can maybe turn it a little bit like this, but that's really how you're going to be in front of your customer as well. So you need to be able to control your position like that. Just grabbing some pigment. And what we're going to do is move our hand and then put the other line there. So 90 degree again. Going back, going in, going back, going in, going back, going in, back, in. And that's really it. So we're gonna go immediately to this new shape. And this way you can practice to work from one center of the line. So the end of the tail, so right here is going to be your center, and from there you pull the line towards you. So first I'm going to show you if you would do it in one little time. So as I said, I would not recommend doing this, but if you wish to work like this and it works for you, then you got to go ahead and do whatever you want. From the center, you're going to keep it real light and pull it towards you. I'm going to try to make it as straight as possible. Probably didn't work for me because I just don't work like that. Then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to do another one. Straight line in one little section. No, I don't think it's going to be neat, but I'll show you the end result in a couple seconds. So we're going to go back to my technique. And we're gonna go in, towards you, away from you, towards you, away from you, towards you, away from you, towards you, away from you. And just keep practicing like this. And you can make longer pieces and go back, longer piece and go back. So the sound of your machine should always remain the same. I'm going to show you when you hear the sound of the machine go differently. So you're going to go too deep and then too shallow, too deep, too shallow. So too deep is going to sound like this. Really harsh again. So I put that full needle in. Can you hear it again? Okay, and then too shallow is a really, really thin line. Maybe you can't see it on the camera, but it's next to these bigger, too deep ones. It's gonna be something like this. So it's not even half of those two lines. So too deep, too shallow, too deep, too shallow. And that's what you're gonna hear when you're practicing the pixels as well. You're gonna hear what the machine does, and sometimes beginners even have this little problem that they put the whole machine into the complete latex. So you hear it click back onto the latex. This is what it does. Did you hear the machine again? So it has no pigment in, but that's fine. It's just the sound of the machine. Could you really damage your needle by doing this as well? So I'm going to show you with the extreme depth and pigment. So with this technique, it's really wrong, and you're going to be in the third layer of the skin. And we absolutely don't want that. We really want you to be in the first, close to the second layer of the skin. If you're going to be working in the third layer of the skin, you're really going to damage the skin, and you're going to produce some scar tissue. So to show you again, these are the lines that we've made, and this one obviously. So these ones over here are the two tiny ones that I've made with a lot of depth, and then the one that's too shallow right next to it. And you see that the one that's too shallow is not even half of what one of the thick line is. Then we see that with these first two lines, so these two, 1 and 2, are made in one straight line, so all the way towards you, and not go back in sections each time. Again, you can work like this, but I would not recommend it. You can see that even with my experience, you see that the line is not straight, and I have a lot of control over my machine. Right here, I've showed you the lines where it's on this little part, too deep, too shallow, too deep, too shallow. So just keep on practicing this, and then your outlines are gonna be really nicely. So we're going to practice the pendulum movement again. We're gonna do that together. So we wanna see those pixels into the latex. You can do either small sections, but also long lines and bigger sections. And we're gonna practice both, definitely. You'll see a difference between those two options. So first I'm gonna show you the pendulum movement, and please practice the movement away from you, like this, so only away from you, and towards you. So the way I work is towards me, but it's totally up to you. If you can work away from you and it's nice and it works fine for you, do that. But what I usually see with my students is that when they're trying to pull away from you part, they're gonna go too deep into the skin because you have less control over your machine. And when you're pulling towards you, the machine depth is really good and you have more grip on your complete machine. So you won't go too deep into the skin. First, we'll make a little line with our pencil again on where to be doing small sections over here, for example, and long sections over here. So small movement and small sections, and then long movements and long sections. We're gonna do small sections. Keep your machine in a 90-degree way again, and just pull it towards you first and make those pixels. So towards you, and good straight up on each other, or close up on each other, I mean. And go back in once again. So what I did was 3 times. So going in to this side, going back to that side, and going in to that side again. So over here, so of course when you have a brow, so for example this would be the tail, and this will be the front part. Here is going to be the ombre, for example, and this is the tail. You want to move your machine from this side to the next section, to the next section, to the next section, to the next section, to the next section. And you don't want to see like straight lines in between here. So I'm just going to show you again. Okay, then we'll leave it like that. And then from this part where you left the last pixels, you're gonna do it again. So this is the wrong example, obviously. But I just want to show you what it's gonna look like when you do this. Go back. And already from this distance, you see a line here, a line here. So if you have this in your brow, it's gonna look really, really bad. So you want the pixels to really go in a nice flow to the next section without you seeing a line here and a line here. Cool. I'm going to show you the right way in small sections to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one section with two sides, so from one to the other and back. So practice that with me. We're going to make them all nice together on those spots. And one more time going back. Okay, that's your first section. And as well as we did the outline, remember when we go forward to ourselves one more time, it's 50%, go back 25%, and then go towards yourself. Again, 50%, go back 25%. That's what we're going to do with the sections as well. So you have one section, and for example, if this would be 50%, you go back to 25, so half on those pixels, and then pull it to you 50% again. So the 25 here and 25 here. So that's what we're gonna do. So on half of the pixels, you go in and you pull it to yourself for another 25%. That one's done. Now we're gonna go do the next part, and we're gonna get 25% of this part and pull it to yourself 50%, which makes another 25 on the end. Okay, so from the camera you already see that there are no lines or whatsoever. So I'm just going to clean this for you so you can see more obvious. So you can see that it's nicely pixelated in one little time and not with any sections like the previous one we've made. So I see that the pixels, they are showing on the white latex, but they are showing better on the skin tone latex. So I'll just grab that one. I'm gonna do one example on that one as well. Here we have our skin tone latex, and I'm just gonna show you the same thing. So we have a small section of pixels, like on top of each other, so close together. That's one, and then go back once over it. And we're leaving this there, and then from where you ended, you're going to start undoing your pixels again. And again. This is the one that's gone wrong. You see a line right here and a line right here. So there is a border. So now we're going to show you the correct one. So we're making pixels towards ourselves in small sections. And going back once. That's our first section, and then from half of this section, so over here, you want to go get this part and go up for another 25% as well. So go in on that part, and back to finish your pixels. And then we have the new line over here. So that means from here, we need to do it again. Go in and pull towards you for another 25%. And back. Okay, and you already can see no clear, visible, or straight lines in between. So it's one nice, smooth, pixelated line. And from up here, you can see the difference between those two as well. So this one is a nice pixelated, smooth line. And here you see borders. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, you can also try your movement pulling away from you. So doing this with your machine, only touching it when you're really pulling away from you, and towards you, you don't do anything. You don't touch the skin or the latex. You just pull away and then touch it. Pull away, touch it. So that's what you can practice on as well. So I'm just gonna show you how to do that. It's not usually what I do myself, so it's gonna be different doing it from myself. So you're gonna pull away from you. And I already can see that I'm not good at this, because you're going in right here and you see a line coming up. So that's not how we want to work. So when I'm pulling it towards me, it's gonna look like this. So you have pixels everywhere and no crazy borders, and that's how it's supposed to be. But practice this one as well, because you never know how it's gonna turn out, and you never know if this is maybe more comfortable for you or not. So I was about to show you the long strokes as well. So we did small parts, and now we're gonna do long parts. So what you want to do, because with the tail side, you will have your small parts because it needs to be saturated a little bit more than the front of the brow. So from the bulb of the brow, you're probably gonna want to do some like long sections towards yourself and towards the end of the brow, obviously. So you need to move your hand fast and pull towards you. So long strokes, and still keep them nice and smooth with no harsh lines and crazy borders. Just practice it really in an extreme way so that you really know what to do when making long lines. Again, and as you can see, you see the pixels way more obvious than when you do small sections. So I'll make a small section right next to it. So small sections are going to be colored in way more than when you do long strokes. So you can practice this a couple times and the small sections a couple times as well. You see all the nice pixels over here. So this would make it really light, airy, and natural. Now we're going to talk about layers. With pixels, you need to know that ombre brows are done in layers. So it's not only one type of layer and then you're done. That doesn't exist because, as I said at the beginning of this movie, latex is what shows sooner than actual skin. So you need more layers to really make a ombre brow. Only one layer of the pixels would definitely not be enough to really cover an actual brow on real skin. So as I said before, on the tail part, you want it to be more covered with pixels close together. So it means you need more layers on that part. On the front of the brow, you want less pixels, so it means less layers and less pressure with your machine. So the pressure really makes a difference as well. As you saw with outlining it and with how deep you're gonna go into the skin, it really makes a difference on how your results are gonna be. If you go too deep or too shallow even, too fast, too slow, too many layers on a part, or too small sections or too big sections, it's like every little thing counts for ombre brows. So to give you a little tip, I am going to show you something that I usually show my students in classes. So it's a really good free tip. The brow will be divided in 3 sections. So I'm just going to show you with the pencil. So if we would make a brow, this pencil's way too thick, obviously, but just so that you know. So you have your tail. It doesn't really matter which shape your brow has, as long as it's a brow and you'll understand what it's really doing. So here we have our bulb, and it goes back in straight, and this line is always a little bit longer than the one up. So her eyes are here, so that you know how I've made the brow. So over here we've got our tail part, and then we've got our fronts. So right here is the bulb, and usually this part is way more saturated than this part. To remember, we have 3 parts. We have the tail, and you need to remember that it has more layers but short movements. So this little part, to divide it, it's gonna have more layers but short movements. So it's gonna be nice and saturated with color. Then we have our middle part, which goes until this part. So it's this full part, which is the middle part. So it's tail, middle, and front. The middle has less layers and long movements. So long movements and less layers, because this is way more saturated than this is. This could be almost around half, maybe like 70% of what the tail has of layers, but then long movements to really make nicely a pixelated area over here. And then we got our front, which is very important because this is where you're gonna make your ombre as well. That's why I gave you already a small tip. Sometimes when you're doing an outline, it's nicer to have this outline a little longer, and this one just stops like 10% in front of that line. So you don't pull that line all the way towards the end when you can really make a straight line on the front. So here, there's not going to be a straight line because here there is a little hole. This also depends on what you like and what you want to do with doing your brows. You can always just pull it way till the end as well, but it's up to you. I like doing this with an ombre more than when I pull it all the way through. Front has less layers, less pressure, but long movements. So you can remember easily. This is saturated, so you need small sections and you need to do more layers. And this, the rest of the brow, has long movements everywhere. Only over here you have less pressure. Of course, going to this side you have less pressure already, but that's maybe too hard when you're just beginning. It's pressure over here only. And that is what really makes the brow an ombre brow. So the whole front has long movements. So long movements. And these ones are all short. Short movements, long movements. More layers, less layers. Your pressure could be just a regular pressure, light pressure, the lightest pressure you have. So that's a way to really remember it. We'll go ahead and start doing different types of brows. What you can do is draw a brow with a pencil and make sharp edges by applying a concealer underneath. When you're just a beginner, you can also add concealer on top of the brow, so on the upper side of the brow, and not only on the bottom side of the brow. That's also up to you. Just test both options out so that you know which would work best for you. I have to say, with skin, it's again differently. When you just begin, sometimes it's actually nice to work with a plain white concealer instead of a concealer in the skin tone of your customer. This way you can clearly see where the line ends because it's really a white border. Remember, in the beginning, for me, it's already so much to focus on when tattooing a real person that it really helps seeing a visible clear white line as a border. But just check it out and see what's comfortable for you. We're gonna do 3 different brows. So first we're gonna do a brow with a full outline and a full cover up of the tail, and then going towards the front of the brow with a nice ombre. So we need long movements and less pressure and less layers. That's the first one we're gonna do. Then we're gonna check the outline with a Q-tip. So I've just made this wet with a water and green soap mix. And what you could do is take a piece, go over it, and you'll see if the outline is there. So you can see through the pigment that the outline is in the skin correctly. So in between, a little tip: when you work with the quadron or any type of needle, you see that there is like a little window above here, and here it's closed all the way at the bottom. Hold your machine like this and you work like this with the window upwards. You see a softer pixelated effect, and when you hold your machine like this with the bottom with the window downwards, then you see that your pixels are closer to each other and it's going to be more obvious. So that's just a little tip. Maybe practice that as well. We're gonna check what we've done. So we need to add another layer to really give it more saturation and depth. Okay, we're gonna check that as well. Now you see that it's more clear what we're doing with the layers. So this is the second layer, and now we're gonna add the middle part where we have long movements and wide pixels. So long movements plus layers and wide pixels. So really go with your machine like this all the way. Go to the next section in a nice flow. Back again. To the next section. Go back to where you left off. And going back once. Okay, we're gonna check that. So you can see that compared to the tail part, this is obviously 2 layers what we've done. This is 1 layer, and over here, because of the long movements as well, the pixels are further apart than over here. And that's what we want to see. We're just going to add a little bit over here, and then it has a nice flow of going towards the front of the brow. So try doing this with me. And start wherever you left off, and you feel like there need to be more pixels on that part. So here I'm making a little bit less of a long section, so a little bit shorter movements, and then I'll go back in from here and make longer movements so that the pixels are wider again. And then to the next section, a little bit further. Into your next section again. Long movements. And back to the top. So this is really what kind of results we would like to see. So this is quite saturated, and then it has a nice even flow to less pixelated areas. We're just gonna pixel a little bit over here, since that needs to be a little bit more obvious. So you can always add a bit of pixels if you think it needs a bit more. So you can just go back in and add some pixels. And of course not that many, because we don't want to overdo it. This looks better. Right now we're going to focus on the front area of the brow. And of course over here we're going to make the ombre part. So what you see is that the line over here is more obvious than over here. So I got less pressure from a machine on the upper part of the brow, and less over here of course, but you'll see it a little bit more than the upper part. So from here to here we make a line, so not a straight line, but from the line to the line, and there we're gonna put our pixels on top of it, like all the way over it, so it's gonna have a nice shading. Some tips before you start, because over here on the bottom part it can always be a little bit more saturated and a little bit more obvious than on the upper part. It would be weird if it would have been over here instead of over here. So we're going to saturate this part a little bit more, and then we have less pressure going towards the upper side of the brow. So try it with me. We start from the bottom, and now we're here. No, just joking. Okay, so just normal pressure, long movements, and then going up, less pressure. Keep your long movements all the way up, and we are there. So with a ombre, you want it to be so less saturated. So each time you do a layer, just make sure you remove what you've done and then go over it, because sometimes even with the pigment in the skin, it can take up to 5 minutes before the complete pigment really shows. So you don't want to add too many layers because you think like, oh, there's nothing in it. So we'll just add another layer, but that's really not how it works. So you got a really subtle line now. I'll just zoom in a little bit. And this is not too much yet, so we're gonna do it again. Hold your window down and then go over it again. Just normal pressure and really long movements. Kick the pixels out. So kick your machine towards you and have less pressure on the top, like this. Okay, we'll go back once from the upper side, like we used to do with all the other parts. Less pressure, and then back to your normal pressure and kick the pixel out. Okay, we're gonna check it again, because as I said, we don't want to overdo it, and it happens quite quickly when you just start doing ombres. So right now it's already a good ombre. So it's really airy and light over here, and it's a little bit more saturated over here. So what I usually do with the other brow technique that I work with is saturate the line with only pixels, so not with a complete outline, but only with pixels a little bit more. So I'm just going to show you that as well. It's also a very nice technique. So what we're going to focus on, because this part is quite saturated already, we just want to add a tiny little bit more and not overdo it. So I'll just add one line of pixels. So make long pixels, long movements, and just let them fade a little bit going upwards, but you don't have to do the whole part again. So we'll go further from this side. So long movements following the outline, and go up a little bit and just have them faded. And we'll go back in and go up, fade them more. And again, you have to have long movements. You can always really add a little bit more wherever you want to, even on the end when you're just about to finish, because delivering perfect brows to your customer is the most important thing there is, since it's your customer. Just saturate it a little bit more and fade them, less pressure as well. And all the way to the front. So one line on top of the outline, less pressure, and there you go. So I hope you can see it. The brow hair is saturated, that it has a bit of a bottom saturation, a little bit more as we just tried, and then it goes in an even nice flow towards the front of the brow. And the complete front is actually with a nice ombre. And what I also like a lot is that over here the outline is so thin because of my low pressure with the machine. So you clearly see all the pixels underneath them. And it's a perfect ombre brow like this for your customer. So that's how you do it. This was just one of the videos of perfect ombre brows that I've made. It was a little sneak peek on one of my trainings. You can learn so much more and many different ways of doing an ombre brow. If, for instance, you want to learn this example, or if you want to learn this example, the course that I'm talking about, you can see over here, and on the link below, you can follow those courses. All courses come with an exam and a certificate. If you've practiced and learned from this video, You can post some of your work on Instagram and tag me at IZZI Brows. All courses are available in Dutch, English, or Italian. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more upcoming videos. With this video, I'm just helping out beginners for permanent makeup. I do not recommend anyone trying out a permanent makeup machine on a real person. If you want to do permanent makeup, take a proper class and get a certificate. To see how I do my perfect unique brow, you need to go and follow one of my courses. It's a masterclass of Ombré Brows. I hope to see you in my next video or at one of my trainings.